Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're exploring something really quite unique. It's not just about the physical side of transformation. It's more about the deep psychological shifts, often really unexpected, that happen when the body changes significantly, especially when tools like semaglutide are part of the picture. This medication, it works by mimicking a hormone, right? To
hmm
help quiet down those constant hunger signals.
Exactly. And that quieting creates this very specific space for people.
Right. And our sources for this deep dive, they include some incredibly powerful personal stories and also insights from an expert, Dan Hollis, who has a very distinct take on all this. Our goal here is really to uncover those, let's call them nuggets of knowledge about identity, how we see ourselves, and frankly, the surprising hurdles and even opportunities that pop up when the body changes faster than the mind can, well, keep up.
That's a great way to put it. What's really striking in these sources is how they shift the focus. It's not just about the scale or, how your clothes fit. It's digging into that complex human experience of redefining who you are. What happens when you look in the mirror and almost see a stranger, and the real work involved in navigating that.
Okay, so let's get right into one of those powerful stories. It's about Adrienne. She's 53. She was using semaglutide, making really good progress physically, doing all the quote-unquote right things. And then one morning, just brushing her teeth, she looks up into the mirror. And she just didn't recognize the woman looking back. Her face was thinner, yes, lines were sharper. Her eyes seemed, she said, older and newer somehow.
hmm
But here's the kicker, the really striking part. Her immediate feeling wasn't like, yes, I did it. No, she told Dan later, I knew it was me, but I didn't feel like I belonged to her. Think about that. 12 years avoiding full-body photos, a drawer stuffed with gold jeans, and this progress felt like a disappearance, not a win.
Wow. That disconnect.
Right.
That's precisely what Dan Hollis has termed identity lag.
Identity lag.
Yeah. The core idea is pretty stark. He says, your body can change faster than your story.
Okay.
And when that happens, the soul gets confused. It's that feeling of your outside just not matching your internal picture of yourself. You feel kind of adrift.
But that sounds incredibly disorienting.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it brings up this key point Dan makes, which feels kind of counterintuitive at first. Most people, we assume the hardest part is losing the weight.
Right, the physical effort.
But Dan argues the real crisis, the deeper one, often hits in the moments after. Adrienne wasn't really mourning the lost pounds. In his words, she was mourning the version of herself who had carried them.
Huh. She knew how to be that person.
Exactly. She was good at it. She knew the ropes, the coping strategies. But now she's, as he puts it, a body in transition and a mind without a map.
A mind without a map.
Yeah.
That's powerful. So if someone listening feels that identity lag, what's the first step Dan suggests? How do you start bridging that gap?
Well, it really starts with understanding his core philosophy about
Yeah.
these tools, like semaglutide. He's very clear. Semaglutide doesn't fix you. It gives you space to fix yourself.
Okay, space, not a fix.
Right. So for anyone on this journey, it means seeing the medication for what it is. A powerful facilitator, maybe? But the real transformation, that's the active work you do in rebuilding your inner world, your narrative.
He has this great analogy for it too. He talks about semaglutide like an experienced builder talking about good lumber.
Good lumber. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the house itself, it's not the foundation even, but it's the kind of material that, well, it makes building possible,
Huh.
but only if you're ready to do the work. It puts the onus back on you.
That good lumber analogy really clicks, doesn't it? And building on that, Dan points out semaglutide doesn't just give you the materials. It gives you what he calls a sacred window.
A secret window.
Yeah, like a pause button or reset. It creates the quiet needed to maybe design a whole new system. It's not cheating the process. He sees it as adaptation. It clears the noise so you can think.
And part of that noise, the part that gets quieted, is the physical hunger, obviously. But Dan has this insight that hunger isn't always just physical, is it?
Not at all. He talks about how it can be a kind of stand-in,
A stand-in.
yeah, or a surrogate for other things we're seeking, meaning comfort, maybe escape. Food could fill a lot of roles beyond just fuel.
So when semaglutide turns down the volume on those physical cravings, what happens then? Dan observes, quite powerfully, when the cravings stop, the truth begins. He calls this the post-craving reality.
The truth begins.
It sounds liberating, maybe, but he notes it can actually trigger grief, disorientation, because for so many people, food was the plan. It was the rhythm of the day, the go-to comfort, the escape hatch. And when that's suddenly gone or much quieter, there's a void. A space that's now empty, and that can be scary.
That's incredibly insightful. And it leads to another core observation from Dan. People don't relapse into hunger, they relapse into confusion.
Confusion, not hunger.
Right. So the challenge isn't just, managing your metabolism long term. It's about what he calls narrative reassembly.
Narrative reassembly.
It's about figuring out your own internal compass now that the old reliable one, often food or behaviors around food, isn't directing things in the same way.
Yeah.
That confusion, that feeling lost without the old plan, that's often the real trigger for going back to old habits.
Okay, so given this complex psychological landscape, this potential for confusion and identity lag, why do some people, in Dan's view, ultimately fail on this path, even with effective medication? His answer is pretty direct, isn't it?
Very direct. He says most people don't fail because the medication doesn't work. They fail because they were alone.
Wow. That completely reframes it. It's not just about willpower, then.
Not primarily, no. Which leads directly into his idea of scaffolding.
And he's very specific here. This isn't just like motivational quotes on Instagram or a weekly check-in call.
Definitely not. He means actual neurobiological replacement structures. Things like solid rituals, rhythm, routines, concrete things you build into your life.
Neurobiological. So these routines actually help rewire the brain.
That's the idea. Support, in this view, isn't just nice to have, it's neurobiological scaffolding. It frames this whole process as a human architecture story.
Human architecture, I like that.
The goal isn't just weight loss. It's helping people rebuild agency, reframe meaning, and relearn momentum. It's about designing and building a life where the old, maybe less helpful structures aren't needed as much because new, supportive ones are firmly in place.
So if identity lag is that initial shock and post-craving reality is the empty space, then this scaffolding.
Yeah.
That's the actual blueprint. That's how you start to build something new in that space.
Precisely. You're actively constructing.
And all this, it leads to Dan really redefining what success even looks like here. What's the real win condition? It's not just hitting a number. He says, this journey isn't about eating less, it's about living more. It's about feeling, I think he says, alive enough to stop measuring everything by food.
Yes. And that connects directly to maybe one of his most powerful statements. Weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative.
Okay, unpack that. Biology versus narrative.
Well, the biology part, the weight loss itself, that can happen with the right tools and changes. But staying there, maintaining that change long term, that requires rewriting your internal story. He sees people rebound because they lose the weight, maybe, but they never rewrite their story. They just sort of go quiet in that new space the weight loss created.
They don't fill the space.
Exactly. They don't fill it with intention, with new meaning, new structures. And eventually, often they go back. So Dan's work fundamentally is about preventing that silence, that quiet, from becoming a relapse. It's about consciously, actively filling the space that semaglutide or other changes might give you, filling it with structure, community, identity, purpose, and time, building a life where food isn't your only or even primary coping tool.
Let's bring it back to Adrienne then. How did this play out for her, working with Dan? He didn't just offer easy answers or platitudes. The source says he just listened, like a mirror that doesn't ask questions, only returns what you're ready to see.
It's a very gentle, reflective approach.
Yeah. And he told her something really important. The weight loss is just the clearing. The becoming takes longer.
Ah, the clearing versus the becoming. That acknowledges the lag, doesn't it?
It does. It gives permission for it. And so they started this work. He called it rewriting the names of things.
Rewriting names? Like what?
Well, like taking shame and reframing it as memory, or control becoming curiosity, discipline shifting to alignment.
Changing the emotional label, the meaning attached to the experience.
Exactly, giving them new context, new power, or maybe less negative power.
So Adrienne's process then, it became less about restriction and more about filling that new frame she found herself in. But filling it, as the source says, not with food, not with fear, but with permission.
Permission.
Yeah. Permission to actually not know who she was right then. Permission to feel awkward in that in-between space. Permission to build a new story without feeling like she had to, completely erase the old one.
That feels much more sustainable.
It does. And the outcome, the mirror itself didn't change, obviously. But the way she greeted the reflection did. She didn't flinch away anymore. Maybe she wasn't quite smiling yet, but she stood there longer.
Just stood there longer.
Yeah. And Dan's perspective on that. And that, he would say, is something. It's that small shift, that quiet arrival into acceptance that signals the real deeper change starting to take root.
So when we boil it all down, the ultimate takeaway from Dan Hollis, from these sources, it's really transformative, isn't it? It's not about becoming someone else. It's about finally having the space to become yourself.
Hmm, that lands powerfully.
And maybe for you listening, if you've ever looked in the mirror and felt like, okay, the shape is changing, maybe it's even right, but the soul feels missing. Or if that reflection has felt more like a stranger than like home, you're absolutely not alone in that. You're just in that part of the story, maybe, where you learn how to belong to yourself again.
Yeah. The old hunger might be gone or quieter, but perhaps something more honest is arriving in its place. So maybe the question to ponder is, what new choices or thoughts or systems, what scaffolding are you ready to start layering into your life during this quiet window, whatever form that window takes for you? What does it really mean for you to feel like you're not behind, but actually just beginning this deeper part of your own story?